I wanted our relationship to mean enough that she would say, you know what? I see you're not perfect. You're not perfect, and I can dig that. And I value too our relationship so much that I'm going to forgive you. So I had wished that happened because I really truly loved that girl. I did. I loved her. She was a good, sweet person. And that's the kind of person, sweet, good, that I wanted in my space. And I lost. And I lost that relationship due to my humanity of being flawed.
Here we grow again. Our hearts on the mend. What I want is what I want is what I want. Soft spaces.
Welcome to Soft Spaces Podcast. This is the place where I get to share a little bit of me to connect with a little bit of you so that we can create a community of wholeness together, one that unites our unmuted voices so we can all live a thriving life in every area of our lives. Welcome. I am your host, Yolanda Lewis, and today we're talking about the trauma of betrayal. Trauma of betrayal. And what do you do? I can tell you, the previous me, the one that was a little less unhealed, my cutoff game is strong. Okay, baby. It is very strong, and that was what I was familiar with doing. But are we to really just get the scissors out every single time we feel a violation of boundaries? That's kind of what betrayal is a violation of boundaries. When we feel that betrayal, that violation, should we really be cutting everybody off? Or are there circumstances where some people in our lives, as it relates to relationship, whether it be romantic or platonic, do they deserve the cutoff, or do they warrant a conversation? I'm asking this question because I remember being in quite a few situations in regards to relationship, and not always romantic relationship, but specifically friendships. That's where I've had the most growth. You like how I put that? That's how I've had the most growth. It was through friendships, girlfriend friendships. And so with that, I found myself in a few positions that stand out with regard to feeling betrayed. And I've been on the victim end, if you will, of the betrayal, but I've also been on the other end of betraying someone, whether it was intentional or unintentional. The fact is that I have, and it's no fun on either side. It's really truly no fun on either side. I will say that what I found on the victim side was that I didn't want to be cut off because I actually cared. This one particular scenario, there's many scenarios, but this one particular scenario, I didn't want to be cut off. I actually wanted an opportunity to explain myself because I had made an error. And I felt bad about that error when it was brought to my attention that it hurt the other person. So I felt horrible that I had hurt this other person, and they felt betrayed by our friendship, by me, by our friendship, and I just wasn't aware. And so what I had wished happened, and I wished this for a long time, what I wished happened was that she gave me the opportunity to say, you know what? I am so sorry. I wasn't looking at the situation that way. Can you forgive me? Because I didn't mean to hurt you, even though I did, and I acknowledge that I did. I'm very, very sorry that that's how it went down. I'm just very, very sorry. I wanted our relationship to mean enough that she would say, you know what? I see you're not perfect. You're not perfect, and I can dig that. And I value too our relationship so much that I'm going to forgive you and we're going to move on, knowing that now you know how I look at said scenario. So I had wished that happened because I really truly loved that girl. I did. I loved her. She was a good, sweet person. And that's the kind of person, sweet, good, that I wanted in my space. And I lost. And I lost that relationship due to my humanity of being flawed. I'm flawed. But here's what I learned from that. I learned that the type of relationships that I need in my life have to be honest. Not perfect, but they got to be honest, to where I can show up flawed and you hold me in that space and correct me gently with love. I can be corrected. Just come with love. And I want relationships like that. I want to be held in spaces where they allow me to be imperfect, because I'm not going to be perfect. And I don't want to be in relationships that have that pressure for me to be perfect. Now, fast forward years later, another scenario stands out where I think I was on the victim side of this too, but I can see with my mature eyes how the other person, felt betrayed as well. And I was betrayed because of things that were said that were supposed to be said in confidence. And then the whole block knew, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, that kind of situation. Our relationship was so close that not speaking, even when she was the one who betrayed me, not speaking at all, that would feel like betrayal because of how close we said we were, and that didn't play out. What I learned from that is a couple of ways to deal with getting through that betrayal, because it can cause a hole in your heart and a wound in your soul. And when you have wounds on a soul level, right, this bond, this connection, whatever the relationship, the bond, the connection creates this hole. When there's a wound in your soul, then there are openings and gaps that allow and give space for other stuff to come through and to come in. So we always want to be moving in a space that is always towards healing, always towards freedom, always towards honesty with ourselves, not for anybody else, although with regard to a relationship, it helps, honesty. But we want to be honest with ourselves. We want to be honest with ourselves to really be able to thrive in that healed space. And doing all of those things is creating a soft space. So I'm inviting you into the soft space to talk about what you can do and how you want to navigate through this betrayal, because it can hurt. And that's actually the first point. Acknowledge the hurt that you feel, rightfully so. Acknowledge the hurt. And this is even if you are the betrayer. There can be hurt in that you realize you messed up. So you are hurt that you hurt someone else. I get that. If you have any decency or any heart at all, it's going to hurt if you betray someone and, of course, you're not aware of it. Now, if you're going in there intentionally betraying someone, that's a different story. And I've been there too. In my younger days, I've definitely been there. Needless to say, it hurts when you recognize someone else is hurt, it hurts. So be honest with yourself to acknowledge that pain. Don't try to ignore it. Don't try to shush it away. Don't try to give excuse to why you shouldn't have it. Let it ride. Let it ride all the way through your body so it can pass through it and out of it. So you're not holding and then turning into freeze or flight or fight or fawn responses. Okay? Let me just break that down for a minute too. So, of course, freeze is when you're stuck in the emotion, right? You freeze the emotion, you lock up, oh my goodness. And sometimes when you freeze, you stay right there and your emotions don't get to grow, nor do they get to pass through your body. So you're stuck. Freeze is almost like stuck. Flight is when you want to get away from the situation. So you're going to do everything possible to remove yourself from the situation and get far away. The only issue with that is that you're not dealing with the situation. So there's the flight response. Fight response is when you can be combative at whatever the issue is. So you are coming full force at whatever it is, anything. You just have a fight response to everything. You're abrasive, you're aggressive, you're attacking. Okay? Those are fight responses. You're like, let's go, like bring it on. I can handle it. I'm coming for you. All right? So that's fight, that's flight, that's freeze. Then there's fawn. And when you have a fawn response to trauma, then you are conforming to the way that you think people expect you to respond. So you will adapt and become whatever you think that they want, then you'll become that. The problem there is that you're not being your true self. So to avoid all of these, fight, flight, fawn, and freeze, we want to be honest with the pain that we feel. Very simple. Be honest. That means you can get, if you can't say it to the person, that's fine. You don't have to do that just yet if you're not ready. But write it in a journal. Write it down somewhere. Or record yourself. Or just acknowledge it and be present to the fact that you are pained by this situation and this scenario. The second thing you want to do is evaluate. And when you're evaluating, you're not just assessing the situation of, yep, they did me wrong. I see that. I note that, right? And that's the story I'm going to continue to tell myself. I am the person who was right and victim, and I'm the victim, rightfully so. And this person did me wrong. The evaluation is also for you with regard to how are you showing up in the relationship? Were you not honest about something that gave them permission to cross a line, a boundary that was established? On the other side, did they know this was a soft spot for you and fully took advantage of your weakness? Evaluate the scenario. What happened here? We're going to look at what actually really happened here. After we deal with the emotion is not gone, but it's passed through us. We allowed ourselves to feel, and so the emotion has passed through us. So that's not a blockage anymore. It's not that you won't feel anymore. It's just not going to block how you view the situation because you've allowed it to pass through you and you were honest about what that emotion was. So when you're looking at the situation, you can then look at it from the lens of, were all my boundaries communicated? Because we're quick to pull out the scissors and it's cut and it's blocked. I myself, I do it sometimes. I'm guilty of it, and I got to go back like, dang, I shouldn't have blocked them. But in the moment, I needed that in order to process. So instead of cussing them out, I just blocked them, and they probably, in many cases, didn't care or didn't even notice. I literally had to do it for me, okay? But we're quick, is what my point is. We're quick to pull out the block button when we haven't really evaluated your part in the scenario. What was your part in the scenario? Not from the perspective of what could I do better and so forth, but what was the actual scenario? What is the story? How does it lay out? Then from there, you can see, do I value this relationship enough to revisit what happened and for me to explain to them what happened from my perspective so that they can be aware and sensitive to my needs going forward? Or do they deserve the big B, the block? Do they deserve it? Because this is a multi-occurrence, or because they're in a space where, hurt people. So they might be in a space where they're hurting. And as a result, they're hurting people. Do they need to be cut off and blocked completely? Or do you just need a little bit of space? Evaluate that relationship. So we're going to address the emotion, then we're going to evaluate the relationship. And from there, we're going to practice trusting ourselves again, trusting our judgment, trusting our instinct, trusting our voice, that voice that's now unmuted because everything has hit the fan. We're going to trust that voice is going to lead us in the right direction. We're going to trust that we can make good relationship decisions. So we're going to trust that this person that has violated my boundaries, that I've communicated or not communicated, I'm going to take ownership of the fact that I made a choice, and the result of that choice was betrayal. However, that is not necessarily a reflection of me more than it is a lesson I needed to learn. So we want to embrace this space by giving ourselves permission to forgive ourselves and build trust again with our voice. And how do we do that? Is the fourth step. We reconnect. Not necessarily with those people, but we make new connections. I should say it that way. Make new connections. When you look to make new connections, you are actually exploring and making use of, by practice, the new boundaries that you need to have, or the new honesty, or hitting the mute button to unmute yourself so that you can actually start speaking your truth in this new space with these new connections. And I'll tell you, I'm in that space now of making new connections, and it feels so weird sometimes. Sometimes I don't like it. Sometimes I'd rather be by myself. And I say that because I say that to myself. I'm honest with myself to say, you know what, self, we're feeling uncomfortable with this whole making new connections things and being an adult and making new friends. We're feeling a little bit uncomfortable, and giving myself space to explore that. Giving myself time to explore that. Giving myself energy to explore, what does that mean for me? What story is that connected to in my mind that I've been replaying over and over and over? Is it connected to the story that says you really don't deserve love anyways? Or you're not lovable? That's why it's so hard, because you're not lovable. Those are false stories that I personally have told myself and have lived by believing until now. And now I'm being challenged to rid those stories that I've been telling myself once and for all. So what I'd like you to do is practice these 4 keys to helping you navigate through betrayal. Practice them and let me know what you thought about working through them. Let me know where you're at right now. At what phase? Are you at the phase where you're acknowledging that, wow, you know what? If I'm honest, that hurt my feelings to cut her off because she did blah, blah, blah. Or that hurt my feelings because I loved him, right? Where are you at? Do you need to evaluate your relationships and take ownership of the responsibility that you have had in the relationship, or didn't have because you didn't know, and now you've learned the lesson, And so from now, with the lesson clear, you can decide, does it warrant a cutoff? Or do I actually really care about the relationship? I'll tell you this too. One of the hardest lessons to learn was in that evaluation phase, that the other person didn't care about me the way that I cared about them. And a lot of times that's what betrayal can uncover, is real feelings of they didn't care about you the way you cared about them. And from there, what do you do with that? What story is connected to you wanting to grab that relationship and hold on to that relationship, hold on to that person that doesn't want you in their life, so much so they demonstrated it by the betrayal, or they demonstrated it by not accepting your apology? Evaluate. Then from there, you forgive yourself and you learn how to retrust your voice. You got to build trust in your voice, which means, to the fourth point, you need to practice making new connections. So as we're going into practice in making new connections, we're going to pause, enter into the soft space, and breathe. And when we breathe here in soft spaces, we take 2 breaths. We're going to take a deep breath in, inhale through our nostrils, and one more breath so we can expand the capacity of our lungs and fill it up with air. Use our lungs. So often when you're dealing with trauma, you take short, shallow breaths. You might not even realize you've been doing it, but your shoulders are tight, they're up, and you're taking short breaths. We're releasing that in this practice. And when you exhale, you may find that your body wants to make a sound. Let it. Let yourself make the sound that you need to make in order to release the emotion and let it pass right through you. Also, if you are driving, please do not close your eyes. It's for your safety, and I want you, even in this practice, to stay safe and be safe. So we do these breaths 2 times. If you feel at the end of the second breath that you need to take more breaths, do it. Take as many or as little breaths as you feel are necessary for this moment. Let's do it together. Deep breath in through your nostrils. One more. And exhale. As you exhale, I want you to think about the story you've been telling yourself. What story and messaging is running through your mind that is making your body even respond? That is making you tap your leg or shake your leg? That's making you have short, shallow breaths? That's making you have tense shoulders or a scrunched up face or lines on your forehead? What is the story? What is the story your body is trying to communicate to you? Let's take another breath. Deep breath in through your nose. One more breath. And exhale. I want to thank you for sharing this soft space with me. I want to thank you for breathing with me. A little bit of me with a little bit of you, creating a community of wholeness together with unmuted voices so we can thrive in every area of our life. Thank you for holding this space for me, for you, and for us all. I'll see you again next podcast. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.